Hey everybody, it is Tuesday night. It's time for another Homestead Update live. As you see, I'm by myself tonight. Give me a 5x5 if I've got good sound for y'all. But Angela, she didn't text me or anything. I'm just assuming she's working late. It's been pretty hectic around her office the last week or so. Let's see who we got in the chat. Starla was here early. Nobody to talk to, unfortunately. Len showed up. What's up, brother? Uh, let's see. We got. If I scroll down, that helps. Jane Marie, how you doing? 5x5, 5x5. Excellent, excellent. I'm glad you guys can hear me. She's probably going to roll in here pretty soon. Well, it's been a week. We started harvesting stuff. If you guys didn't see it, I just posted a short about a cushaw that I plucked this afternoon, and it's a big boy, and it's one of the smaller ones too. I'm really impressed with those. And Starla, thank you for sending those seeds. I'm going to harvest the seeds, and I'm going to make sure that I do quite a few of those next spring when we do starts, because man, those are prolific. They do great. I didn't weigh it, Starla. I did not weigh it. Probably shouldn't I? It's probably a good idea. It's got to weigh 8 to 10 pounds. Oh, speak of the devil. She is rolling in. Did you go to office, Max? It wasn't supposed to be ready till tomorrow. Well, that explains why she's late, because she went and picked up a poster for me. And it was supposed to be ready tomorrow. Well, thank you. Had I known it was going to be ready today, I wouldn't have ordered it today. So we are getting ready for festival. And I'm going to take the 2 weekdays off, Thursday and Friday, and go there and try to hawk my book. But here's what I did. Got this big poster. It says, "Got preparedness questions? Ask RPG." And it's got a list of questions down there, and then it's got the QR code and all the book information. And it's just a way to get people to engage. I've been doing some research on proper marketing and everything, and I did not realize this. And we had been doing our vendor tent kind of wrong for the past 5 years when we were doing it. There's actually 3 different levels that people look at your display from, and it's 15 feet, 5 feet, and then up close. And so I'm gonna put some of this information that I got into play uh, and see if I can't do it. Okay, dang it's huge. Yes, it's 24. 24 by 36. It's regular poster size. I'm gonna go to Hobby Lobby and get a poster frame with a plexiglass or a plastic cover, so we can put it. Let's see here. How far are we from Concordia? Well, from Concordia, Missouri, we're about 2.5 hours. From Concordia, Kansas, well, hang on. I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you exactly how far we are. Actually, why don't I do it on my phone? Finally, you're getting serious. Well, Lynn, if you call learning how to do it finally serious, then yes, I am getting serious. Uh, I have sold, since the book came out, I've sold 68 copies, and I'm going to have 28 copies for the camp out, and so hopefully I can walk away and sell those. I've been doing. I've been looking at it. Your average book like what I published only sells about 200 copies, and I was unaware of that. You think they'd sell more, but they don't. So I'm going to try to beat that. I have to sell, in order to break even on the publishing costs for me, I have to sell 158 books. So that's my first goal, and then after that, we're just gonna wing it from there. Concordia, Kansas. Let's see here. Directions. We are 132 miles away from Concordia. It is almost it's west and just slightly north of us. Oh, let's see. Half bubble came in. Evening, all had a microburst come through city house a few hours ago. Was reported as an EFO low grade tornado. Been through hurricanes that weren't as crazy as this was. Oh wow, yeah, microbursts can be extremely destructive. When we lived over on the Missouri side, there was a was it Greenwood that got hit by the microburst or Lake? It was one of the lakes. It was one of the communities down by one of the lakes down there. But it literally like a 2 block wide swath right through this housing division, and it just tore the roofs off of every single house. It was something. And these were big houses too. These were like, you know, big for Missouri. These were like $400,000 or $500,000 houses.
At that time.
Yeah, and Angela says at that time, yeah, that was quite a ways ago. Okay, and I'm going to share something with you guys. Oh shoot, I forgot. Did I save that? Oh no, okay. I'll just tell you about it. Oh here, hang on, Angela. If you take a minute and just watch.
Sure, I gotta check on something.
Yeah, tell Angela to go. So I created this PDF file. This PDF. It's the household preparedness stress test, and I'm giving this away for free. If you want to get a copy of this in electronic format, send an email to our Grumpy Acres email, and I'll put that in the chat here right quick. But anyway, I made it so that people could stress test their house and see exactly where they are as far as preparedness goes, and then it it gives it a score, and it allows you to see where you're weak, and it kind of prompts you to create a plan and start attacking the problem so that you've got more margin in your lives. It's dead simple. It did not take me very long to put together, but Angela read it last night and she said it was pretty good. And you know what? For the price you pay, it's awesome. You're getting it for free. You're getting some unbiased look at where you are as far as preparedness goes, and giving you a prompt to plan for how to fix it. Dana's in here. Dana's saying hi to everybody. Oh, let's see here. What else? Well, I want to tell you, Angela did her class this weekend, but I'm going to wait to and have her tell you about it so that she can give you her thoughts on it, since she's the one that gave the class. Quite honestly, I spent most of the afternoon either reading in my book or talking with Spags and the Todd. Uh, good conversations. But I did get up, and there's some downtime in the middle of the class because you're canning, and it was 2 hours of canning. No, 2 hours of it once you got it on heat. Yeah, there's about 2 hours. So there's about 2 hours that you got to fill. And so I got up and I gave about a 25 minute talk on how canning fits into full spectrum preparedness. And there were people there that had been in preparedness quite a while. And the cool thing about full spectrum preparedness is it gives you a different way of looking at things that's a little bit more holistic. You look at preparedness as a whole instead of siloing all your stuff. And take the canning, food preparation, right? So food is one of the aspects of preparedness. Well, you've got 9 other aspects. You've got water, shelter, security, medical, transportation, communication, financial, mental and spiritual, and community. And I was able, just relatively off the top of my head. I thought about it a little bit beforehand, but I was able to connect the mere act of canning bacon and chicken with about seven of those, and showed how they were integral with each other. And so that was good. Everybody said, a couple of people came up and said, yeah, they had never thought about it the way I presented it, and that's good. That's what I want. Anytime I talk to somebody, I want them to walk away with a number one, a feeling of empowerment, the fact, the idea that they can do it, and secondly, with some sort of framework in place, even if it's nascent and just a kernel of a thought, something that they can walk away with and work with. And so I felt really good about that. What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. I'm giggling.
She's holding her phone up at me.
Dana Let's Prep. She's like all in. She wants her digital copy.
She what?
Wants her digital copy.
Okay, Dana. Yeah, I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through the email in the morning and get one sent off to everybody that asked for one. Excuse me. But it was, from where I was sitting, it was a good class. I mean, it ran the gamut. Angela can tell you about there were no failures, right, Angela?
No,
There were no failures, and failure is a relative term here. And when she explains it to you, you'll understand what I mean. Then we got something in the mail today. Let's do it. Let's do a package opening. I know what they are because I ordered them. So we got some new shirts to wear to the festival. The first one, this is our that's our Exodus 15:3 shirt. If you are if you are somebody that reads the Bible, you can go look that up and see what it says. And it's I was hoping I was hoping I was going to be able to wear it tonight because it kind of fits in with the talk after the update. Um, then again, you'll understand when we get there. But it was in the mailbox, and I don't have a key. And then the other one is Angela. The Good Idea Fairy. Angela wanted one of those, so we're gonna wear those at camp out. Uh, the shirt right here, yes, I am wearing the shirt for a reason too. This is, when was it? It doesn't say. This is from the last self-reliance festival we went to in Tennessee, and I'm wearing it tonight because if you didn't know, Nicole is moving locations and wasn't going to hold it in Tennessee this year. So she is going to be out here Thursday at the Midwest Preparedness Project Campout. Is actually Self-Reliance Festival. And so I'm wearing this shirt to advertise for them because if you're within driving distance, you can come up. Bear Independent is the main speaker that day, and Brittany is going to be there. Brittany's the one that did the Full Spectrum Grumpy Acres website, and what's her talk on? She's giving a talk on something preparedness. I can't remember exactly what it is. Hey, Mississippi, which shirt you got? Oh, this shirt. Of course you do. That was a good venue. I really liked that venue. It was. I got you an Exodus shirt and me an Exodus shirt, and I got you your
Nice.
good idea fairy.
Nice. So Sam's Club is having a sale.
Oh,
Commercial freezer. Commercial refrigerator. They have more selections.
Sam's Club is having a sale on commercial freezers and refrigerators.
They have the stove I want to.
If we bought that big one, we would get rid of the ones in the outbuilding.
I would want them in the kitchen here. There's plenty of space for the freezer and the refrigerator.
No, it's not.
Yes, there is.
That-
Dude, I measured it because I was going to order it during COVID,
That-
and it was a 1.5 year waiting list.
That freezer's wider than that refrigerator.
No,
Yeah.
no. So
That big 2-door one you showed me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I promise you, it's not.
Okay, well,
But it's just the whole thing is the refrigerator, and then where that cabinet is, the whole.
cabinet can go in the bathroom because I'm ordering one of those for the bathroom.
Which cabinet?
The white cabinet.
Oh no, I was talking about the glass cabinet.
You're gonna have to hang on a second, guys. We have to talk about
We
spatiality.
can talk about it later.
Well, no. If you put something in that corner with doors on it and you leave that big white cabinet there,
Yeah.
you can't open the doors.
No, I would move that forward. We would just move down a little bit.
No, you can't cover
I
it.
got
There's
6
nowhere to
inches
put
down.
it. There's nowhere. You can't put it in front of the window.
Okay, what if I got
She-
sliding doors? I guess sliding doors
Sliding doors on what?
on the freezer.
They don't.
They have one with sliding doors.
Jesus Christ.
I could make this work.
No, if you stick something in the corner with doors on it, that's moving. I can't handle that.
Let me see if he's gonna kick in.
No, it's non-functional.
It is.
Charlotte wants to know how you're doing on your injury.
Yeah, good. But it's a lot more.
Is the red light helping?
Yeah, it actually is.
So the hacks brought over a red light therapy pad, and she's been using it. And
It's a red light, blue light therapy pad. I think there's a difference there.
Let's see what else we got. Like the captain shirt, yeah, Freeman. Yeah, sometimes you know what that patch. I'll be completely honest with you it's a very expensive patch. I mean, it only costs like $350 to have it made. I mean, I take that back. It costs about $5 to have it custom made and shipped. But the back end price on that patch is extremely expensive. And
What patch do you have on?
I would say a caveat to anybody that is truly looking to pursue it and to be able to own one themselves. Think long and hard about it. Seriously, because the price you pay goes way beyond just monetary.
It's a lot of sacrifice.
A lot of sacrifice. It's hard. It's dirty. It's scary. It's frustrating, and
Some days maddening.
it will change who you are.
Makes you stronger, for
I
sure.
hope so. Kansas is too far for me to drive, so no SR for me to. Oh,
Aw.
that's a shame.
It stinks.
You could come up and party in our backyard. Not that-
Jonathan will be at camp. You can just come stay with us at the house.
hopefully, that's the homestead. Back to homestead update. Hopefully, by the time people start rolling in for camp out, I'll have the second bedroom done to a point where we can move furniture into it. I mudded for an hour and 15 minutes this morning.
Oh, nice.
So I should have it completely mudded by Thursday night.
Yeah, because Jonathan will roll out. I'm just assuming he's staying here since
It's always
the sun
open.
is in. And so Jonathan's rolling in, and then when he rolls in, he'll be rolling out. I know he's staying the week after, isn't he?
It usually does.
Yeah, so you just roll in and stay with us during camp because Jonathan will camp out there at camp. But he does. He always goes out
I know.
like Monday or Tuesday or something because
I wasn't inviting anybody to stay in our house.
I mean, it's with extra bedrooms for it.
I am drinking lemonade. It's just straight lemonade.
Is that from the stuff in the box?
Yeah. I had alcohol for my birthday party, and then
Yeah, you didn't feel so good.
yeah, Sunday I didn't feel so good, but then there was leftover. What are they? Seagram breezers?
Yeah.
Guys, listen. If those things didn't have alcohol in them, I would drink those constantly.
Yeah, but isn't there a lot of sugar in them?
But yeah, there's a lot. They're not healthy.
Because you can get them non-alcoholic, but
So I'm thinking. I like the carbonation in it, and I like the sweetness, and it's the same sweetness as this is 0 sugar, by the way. This is no calories. No, I'm sorry. This is 5 calories. But I'm thinking about saving up the money and buying one of those soda streams so I can carbonate my drinks, because that's what I like about those breezers is the citrusy
Wait
taste.
till Black Friday and we'll get one.
Okay, if they're not expensive, I don't.
Not Black Friday, they're like cheap.
Yeah.
So,
But I like the carbonation in them. That's why that's the thing I like the most about the alcohol. I could do without, honestly. Not that I did not enjoy drinking alcohol. I got that Elijah James bourbon was top shelf. It was so good. And then I had a couple of my burnt toast beers. I've got 4 left out there. It's been over a year. It's the longest any beer has lasted in our house
it's been
ever.
like 18 months, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
We that is precious to us along with Oktoberfest because you can only get it once in a while. Like if Zeg travels through Colorado, he goes ahead and he picks it up, and then G always, you guys barter stuff or something, I can't remember. And then
He got cinnamon rolls for 1 case, and then I paid in cash for the other.
Yeah, and then so and then Oktoberfest you can only get in the fall. Of course, it came out a little bit early, but I guess school is starting, so
Yeah, they usually do it mid-August.
yeah. So yeah, those are precious commodities.
So yeah, tell them about your class. Tell them what it was and
Oh,
how it went.
so we did the canning class. Everybody wanted to know how to do meat. I was really shocked because we had some YouTubers that are like bushcraft YouTubers kind of thing, like really well known.
Hang on one second. Hey, Lynn, this beer, as long as you don't let it get skunky, it's so hoppy that it hasn't gone bad. I thought it was going to be skunky, but I opened it up and I was like, man, it tastes exactly like it did a year and a half ago.
Trust me, it's precious beer. It doesn't come out. It stays in the refrigerator. We have a beer fridge, and all of that. The special beer goes in that beer fridge, and it's hands off. And when we have company that knows where the beer fridge is, we'll share maybe one of each one, but then they have to go back to the trash beer. So,
okay, back to your bushcrafters wanting to learn how to can meat.
yeah, and so I was really shocked at some of the caliber that we had in the class. And basically what it is, they're traveling so much, with videos and doing that, and they're constantly in campsites and that kind of thing. They literally wanted to learn how to can off grid. And so how is this done? How are you doing it? That kind of thing. So went in, I showed them, they go hunting, they get their kills and that kind of thing. Sometimes the kills are bigger than what you can eat. And so, how do you preserve that? So we went over that stuff. And it was really good. But G was talking about no failures. There were no failures, and so anybody.
But hold on a second. A jar broke and the lid popped off of one.
Yeah.
Seems like a failure to me.
No, it's not a failure.
Why is it not a failure?
So it's not a failure. So you're always going to have quality issues, and so it is what it is. The jars travel from overseas. They come in, they get jiggled on the truck. It's just a hot mess.
Oh, she bought.
And you buy cheap jars, and when you're doing the class,
She bought the Walmart.
and I'm not gonna do that anymore. We're just gonna raise the price of the class to cover the jars.
Yeah.
And so, but
I was not impressed with
I
that.
had never really had any problems with those jars before.
Well, the mainstay. These are not the same.
They're not.
The mainstay is the brand, the Walmart brand. 5 years ago, they were
decent.
They weren't quite on par with ball jars, but they were pretty darn close.
No, but look at the packaging. How it's loose packaging. It's
Yeah.
not even tight.
Here.
And so,
You sure we get it?
I don't know. Should be. Oh, you're on one.
Hang on a second. But I want you guys to see this. I thought you could just reach over there.
My crippled body. I think it was this. No, it's this one because the lids are coming off of it. Oof.
So this is how the mainstay jars are packaged now. And look at this. I don't know if you guys can see that. But
Flimsy plastic.
look how loose that plastic is. And the jars.
The lids come up.
Well, you can hear them. The lids are loose. They're rattling because they're so poorly packaged.
And so, even in the store, the plastic is so like crummy. It's more like cellophane than anything else, and the boxes were open. Well, I wasn't gonna grab those boxes, so I'm having to get boxes off to get other boxes and that kind of thing. I be very selective.
So, Starla, I appreciate the desire for more videos like that. The problem is, well, not really a problem. It's not a problem. I'm not drinking anymore. I mean,
What, a
seriously,
video of what?
more beer and wine
How to
making.
make beer. I mean, you can make it, just don't make so much.
If I make
Because we were bottling it and storing it in Pleasant Hill.
if I make beer, it's 5 gallons. If I make
Right.
wine, it's 4.5.
Yeah, but we were bottling it and storing it. We gave a lot of it away.
Okay, let me think about it. I might when it starts getting cold and stuff outside. I may
You may
do that.
And then,
I'll make wine. I won't make beer.
but so what happened was when we were going, it was kind of funny because we had some people that were, standing in the kitchen and that kind of thing, and started freaking out because I had a pressure gauge that we shouldn't have used it anyway, but we wanted to try and see if it would work, like in an off-grid situation. And that it ended up in the trash can after. I was like, I'm not having it. It's cheap enough. I'll just go buy another one.
It was a Presto.
Presto's
and
warp.
that Presto was how old?
Oh my gosh, I think I've had that thing like 10 years, if not more. And so, like, they don't even make the gauges for it anymore. It's that old. And so they've discontinued them. And so I got my money's worth out of it. I'm not worried about it. I think at the time it was like 99 bucks or something like that.
The gauge is reading low, and we kind of I thought it was, and I turned it down, but people started freaking out about it, and so it got put back on 10, and it was way too hot. I knew it was way too hot just because of the way
it worked the can, and but I also can't be a Nazi, and because I want people to learn, so I can't be a Nazi in there going, don't touch my stuff, don't touch the stove, don't mess with it, because they're learning. So I leave them with it, and I'm like, here's where you need to make sure everything stays. And so that's how they learn. They stay in there, nothing explodes, and they do great. Well, we had one jar that broke, which was really sad. Luckily, the way the jar broke, I was able to save the meatballs. So, and those were precious to me because that was our kuni and our lamb. So I wanted to make sure those were saved. And so the jar where it busted was literally at the seam. The seam separated from the jar. And so it's a quality issue. And then one of the lids, G was examining the lid. The lid only had almost like a lug lid. And so it only had one ring. Well,
so what she's talking about, if you look at this, you get, well, this only has one too, but this is a ball jar.
Got two here. So it connects and then comes in. But this is one of the newer jars and it's ball.
Yeah, this is a
ball jar.
But
the lids on these are like a flimsy aluminum versus what the ball jars are, which the balls get just as bad. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, after you use them for a while. No, I will say this.
They're getting bad.
I will say this. The all of them sealed, didn't they?
No, two of them did not.
Two of them did not. Oh, the ones that are in there.
Mm-hmm. Which is fine.
And that could have been because of oil, oil on the fat on the ring, or
I saw it.
I do too. I saw.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. So it just, it was one of those, and it wasn't, I think, until the second jar that Data was like, so how much headroom space is supposed to be in there? And I said something, and I'm like, and here's why. And he was like, oh. And I'm like, let me get you a spoon so you can even that out.
No, actually, Dana, everybody walked away feeling good. Everybody's taking something home. We actually had to bring it to our house because it was hot, and they were, half the jars were covered with meatball sauce. So everybody that took the class, we were going to take the jars to them.
Who didn't take their jars?
We didn't take them. And the reason why we took them, number one, they had to be clean. Number two,
we had people come 3 hours away to come and take the class.
And if you throw hot jars in a vehicle and you start driving with them,
They won't sail.
yeah, they'll pop open. So we took them. They're going to be at camp out. So
Yep.
everybody was happy, weren't
Yeah, everybody that took the class was really happy. I got a lot of thank yous, a lot of knowledge. Just so that you know, when I do these classes, the one last year and the one this year, so I think it's $5, something like that, and you can watch it online. So there's a link. You just got to go to Midwest Preparedness Project, and they always videotape these so that you can watch them, comment, ask questions, do all of that. So
And Patrick did tell me that I could get the video
oh yeah,
and edit it so we had something on our channel.
oh cool, okay, yeah, sweet.
You're going to have to commentate it though.
Commentate it.
Because it's been shown on their channel,
Uh-huh.
I have to chop it up and edit it, and you have to do commentary on it.
Oh, okay.
It can't just be the raw video.
Okay,
You gotta
well,
just basically
edit it. I'll watch it and then see what I got to do, put it together, and then I can do that.
Yeah, it's the least we can do. Randy, checking in before he goes to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we're doing good tonight. Right now,
The storms are coming in though. They're saying they're going to be severe. They said have everything ready before we go to bed.
yeah.
So I gotta get my teenies out, my teeny shoes. The tornadoes are hitting.
Yeah.
And so then, but yeah, so even with the two jars that the one lid came off, that lid was flimsy, it sucked, and that jar that broke. Here's the thing, and I said this in my class because somebody was like, "Well, what if it's not perfect and comes in? It's just a big deal." And I'm like, when I give these classes, the reason why I don't check their lids and make sure that they're tight and do all of that, I give them the instructions, and so then they do what they need to do. Now, my rule is whoever fails at following the instructions gets to clean the canner. And so that happened. And then, because these guys this time decided that they wanted to put their names on each jar lid. So
we
what
knew
they
exactly
did,
who did it.
Who did it. And so I welcomed them. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so they did and busted, but not really because it wasn't their fault.
Starla wants to know if you can can fish.
Yes, you can.
In fact, we've got a video on canned fish.
And so I always smoke it, and then you put it in the jar, and then seal it up, and then pressure can it. Don't add water to it. Leave it, and because the smoking is a preservative and a preservation technique, and so is the canning. Garen's been eating fish.
Some of the fish, I'm not gonna lie, some of the fish does get dry.
Which one was that? Probably the tilapia.
The whitefish.
Yeah, the whitefish, tilapia. Probably because it's thinner. So I probably need to smoke that and then maybe add a sauce to it or something.
I would just add a little broth to it.
No, I wouldn't.
Make a fish broth.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe the juice out of some clams, so it's got an oceany taste to it.
Maybe.
Dana says, off topic, has anyone here had a nuclear stress test instead of me? Yes, I've done that twice. It's not that bad, seriously. Starla's had like 15 of them.
Yeah. You need to do a video on what?
Smoking and canning fish.
I've done it. The video's out there, guys.
Hey,
in fact,
you guys talk.
We were living in this house. That was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you got to get stuff out of the freezer. And I was like, all right. So I went out there. I guess it was 3 years ago. So you can go back in the library and then see where it's at. But it is there. It's out there. From the smoking process to the canning process. Right? We did get the smoking process.
I honestly, it's been so long.
Yeah. The price of fish, man, you're going to have to go fishing if you want me to do it. Oh, are you looking for it?
Yeah. Chicken, bacon. Love that ping sound. Oh, maybe we didn't.
I know we did.
Hang on, guys.
You do the I love the ping. I mean, that could be anything.
Can't, right there it is.
Oh, are you going to put the link in there?
Yeah. Why not?
Beautiful.
Let's see here. Hang on, guys. Stop.
It's planned for you.
No, I'm not trying to.
Share, copy,
Okay.
go back. There you go.
All right.
Ta-da!
Now, mind you, it's not the best. Not the best video. We were still
Still
learning.
working on audio and all
Yeah,
that.
we were still learning.
So yeah, but there you go. There's your canning fish video. Ooh, that matched. That matched. It rhymed. Oh, it's been a long day.
It's been a long day.
8 more days, just 8 more days.
Okay, guys, I'm going to share something with you right now. This is the QR code to our referral link for Starlink. And the reason why I put it up here because Skane's contacted me today. She got Starlink
Okay. From ours?
from she used our referral link.
Okay.
You get 1 month of free internet from Starlink if you use a referral link from somebody. So there's the QR
Did
code.
she call and thank you?
No, she wanted the link.
Oh, okay.
She wanted the link. So there's the QR code. I'm gonna leave it up there. If you're thinking about getting Starlink or you just want to check it out, go ahead and scan that QR code. If not, just remember that down in the description of all our videos, I'm gonna start putting the Starlink affiliate or the Starlink link. That way you guys can get a good deal on it, and we can get it.
When you live in the middle of nowhere, you live in a valley, that kind of thing, Starlink is the only way to go.
Yeah, and even if you live in a like a suburban lot of stuff, if you go RVing, they've got an RV model, and I'll tell you what. In all seriousness, we've had internet of one form or another since '95, and do what? Yeah, we were using dial-up modem, but Starlink is 99% of the time just as good as DSL, and it's not as good as fiber. I'm not going to pretend that it's as good as fiber, but it's good. The only downside
we
is
can't get fiber here, so there's that.
Yeah, the only downside of it is that you are dependent, and whenever the weather gets really bad, the reception gets spotty. But other than that, if your life is such that you can't do without the internet for a night,
One day,
for during a storm, then you probably need to rethink our priorities there. But okay, I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds to scan that if you want. Again, it's down in the affiliate links. Go ahead and think about it if you haven't gotten already.
you can always take a picture of it and save it. So it's no big deal.
Or just email me.
Right.
Email us for that.
Or just go into YouTube and get the link.
Yep.
So that's what I need. We are a month from being completely mobile in
the RV.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, well, there you go, Starla. You can get that, and they've got. I don't know. I kind of glanced over it, but I think they've got no equipment fee whenever you sign up this month.
This month?
Yeah, they got something special going on right now. No. If you scan that link or click on the link in the description, it'll take you to the page and it tells you what the special is this month. But, and quite frankly, a 3 months worth of internet,
it's worth it.
It is worth it. Seriously, ours went up. We've got the $130 plan, and
but we do the videos, so
yeah,
there's a lot of streaming. There's a lot of stuff we gotta have that you won't necessarily need.
Right. Okay, so what else is going on? I told him about the heart. Did you see the coup show?
I did. I'm really happy, but I'm not really happy about it. It's not ripe.
Yeah, it is.
It's young.
It's young.
That stem is super super green and juicy, but it is not where it's like should be picked. But it doesn't mean it's not going to taste good, right? So
Well,
that is a big mother.
if you want Kusha squash seeds for camp out, we got to get that done.
I understand, sir.
Next several days.
I understand. And so, did you show them?
I did a short.
Did you?
I did a short, and if
Did you all see the Kushan?
if they did not, if they haven't seen the short, because I did it an hour before the live one, if they did not watch it, then I will be sorely disappointed in our YouTube family.
So as far as
put a one in the chat if you guys want to see it.
I know that you were thinking well on this, but I also knew you wanted to try to eat it. You want to try to see what it tastes like. So I get that, and I'll roast them up for you. But we're doing something special and different for the seed trade this fall. So this fall, this is actually going to be a class on seed saving. So I encourage all of you that are coming, bring produce, and we're going to show how to dry and preserve your produce. Oh, did they want to see it? That doesn't mean anything. I can knock on your head and get that sound.
I'm right. Look at this precious little baby. Look at that little baby, so cute. Look at that. It's as big as her head.
Good night. Oh.
There you go. That is, and this is one of the smaller ones. This one was hanging off the fence.
Yeah.
And you can see where it was rubbing up against the fence.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's not the prettiest.
Right. No big deal. Didn't have to be pretty.
I did not realize these things got that big.
They get bigger.
I'm extremely happy.
They get bigger than that.
Because this is something we can use for the animals during the wintertime.
Yeah, the suggestion was with these to actually plant them along the fence line where the goats and sheep are, so that they can have at it, because every part of the plant, because they'll grow up and over the fence line, Aaron, and so they'll use that as a lattice.
It'll never fruit if you do that.
Well, I don't know. That's what Jen suggested to me.
They will not fruit because the goats will eat them down to the ground.
I don't know. I'm gonna talk to Mike and Jen because that's what was suggested. What was that? Godzilla brand? Yeah. Oh, and they get bigger than that. I kid you not.
Oh yeah, that, like I said, that's one of the. Actually, we've got some that are only about that big. They just flowered.
Flowered and started.
Just started growing.
Yeah, so they'll keep going. So that's not a big deal. So those will be our kusha for the winter. So yeah, no big deal.
She says they're supposed to taste like pumpkin.
Yeah.
I was just gonna cut it up and maybe cook it over an open fire this weekend.
Yeah.
Like put it in a Dutch oven.
I think you'd like it better if you let me sweeten it up, because I'm gonna treat it like a pumpkin.
Okay.
So maybe I do some kind of, I don't know, salad or something. I'll figure it out.
Can that be used to deworm the dogs, like the pumpkin?
Oh yeah.
Can okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it does the same thing. It's got the same benefits. All of your squashes do have the same benefits. So,
one thing I used to do with our pumpkins, that you take a pumpkin or a squash flower and you pull the green part off, so you just got the meaty colored part.
Drive up.
And no, you make a tuna fish. Make a little tuna fish salad, and you stuff that, and you eat it like a wrap. Oh, it's delicious. I did that at the old house. Kaiju squash. Oh no, they say Kusha's got to go. Go Kusha. Doesn't work. Doesn't work that well.
Oh.
So yeah, and then we got tomatoes. We got one good beefy Amish tomato that Angela has said that the seeds are precious.
Have to be saved.
Yes.
It is the most beautiful heirloom tomato I've ever seen.
It's nice, and it is meaty. You can tell just by holding it that it's very dense and very meaty.
Yeah.
And we've gotten the garden's a wreck. Quite frankly, it is. The beds up.
You
next
said
to
this last week. You were
Did I?
complaining about this last week.
But we got more food. That's because it amazes me that we got more food.
It's because the land's getting better.
It's healing.
It's healing. Does anyone also enjoy tomato what?
Tomato sandwiches.
Yes, Garen. That's Garen's favorite, tomato sandwiches.
I
made cucumber sandwiches for Sunday.
those were good.
And then I've been eating on the leftovers. Like I kind of hid them so you couldn't find them.
I ate that one.
Oh, you did? So there's no more left?
No, there were two of them. I ate one of them.
Yeah, okay. And they're gone.
You know, they
I'll make more.
they make bread for
I
sale.
just
You
gotta
can
get
you
more
can go
cream cheese.
you literally go give people money and they'll give you bread
Right,
and then
they
you
make
can.
bread. I'll probably just go buy it.
Nah, but the best tomato sandwiches is you lightly toast it, put some mayo on it, slice the tomatoes up, maybe some cheese, maybe not, salt and pepper, a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, and oh, that's so good.
Yeah. I've been thinking about like a cucumber salad, doing the one with the apple cider vinegar and the onion and that kind of thing. But I gotta put sugar in it, and so which is fine because apple cider vinegar will balance that. But
Hey, can you keep the conversation going so I can go put animals away? Okay, guys, I'll be right back.
Quick.
Yeah, because we need to. It's getting close to that.
Right, and I still
I'll
have
be right
to
back.
shower and get ready for tomorrow. So anyway, so that's what we had going on. Class was good. Saturday, what did we do Saturday?
I mowed.
Yeah, he mowed mostly Saturday. I went, got everything, all the materials, everything I needed for canning, got that stuff done, got back, prepared all the food, got all of that done, made sure everything was weighed out so I knew who did what. Because we had one station that was bacon, then we had another station that was chicken legs, and then we had another station that was the meatballs and sauce. And so I have to prep all of that, get all of that ready to go because there's just not enough time to do a class and have them prepare the food. So I get everything done, get it weighed out. It was super funny. One of the instructions that I gave on the chicken station, I don't care how you do it, you can only get 4 chicken legs in a quart jar. But man, was there one person that was trying to fit in 5. And so I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. She's like, why won't this go in? And like, how many do you have in there? Do you have 5 in there? She's like, yes. And I was like, well, that's why you're not following instructions. It's not going to happen. And she goes, well, then I'm missing one. And I'm like, okay, so what other jar did a 5th one get shoved in? It was her dad's. And he shoved the 5th chicken leg in there. Like, take that out. That's not going to work. So, but it was fun to see everybody just kind of realize, man, I thought I would have had to add water to everything because we didn't add water to the chicken either. You just don't. And, and then it was kind of fun because a bunch of preppers, right? So it was really fun because they were like, well, I got baited into it. I was trying to give everybody the legit class, kind of the ball style class of what the government says and that kind of thing. And that they weren't having it. They were like, okay, no, we want to know about rebel canning. And so I'm like, well, we're going to do some of that today. We're going to do some rebel canning. And I said, so I was going to teach you the way that should be done. But, okay, fine. You guys want to do it? We'll do it my way. And it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We had good conversation, good questions. I'm excited to see how many men participated that are ready to go out, and when they're off grid, they are going to be canning and doing all that. Came up with several solutions on how to do that. One, the wood burning stove, whether it's the one that you heat on as long as it's got a flat top, or it's the one that you heritage canning. Yeah, but they were calling it rebel canning. And so, but yeah, Starlin knows I like to use the word heritage canning over rebel canning. Rebel canning causes too many fights in our hands. And,
No such thing as rebel canning.
Right. And then
it's heritage
it
canning.
Heritage canning. And Starla grew up that way, so she knows what we're talking about when we say heritage canning. So, but yeah, so that was a lot of fun just to get everybody interested. Sid was there, and she's 14 this year, and she kind of gave up canning after last year, which was sad.
Who did?
Sid.
Oh.
And so, but she came back, took the class again, and so maybe she's excited because I asked her, so we got a lot of harvest out there. And I said, you wanted to come help me last year. I didn't have a lot, so I didn't really need you. And I was like, so this year, and then she was like, yes, call me, I'll do it. So this year she's going to come in, and that'll be nice because I can run quite a few canners with her here because she knows what she's doing. So she's really good. But
Kind of bummed.
she's my timer. What are you bummed about?
Predators.
What happened?
We've lost so far in the last month. We've lost 8 Jersey Giants, 3 of the Comets,
You got to keep the Jersey Giants locked up. We don't have. I
and
can't have
and
that.
we lost the two naturally born black hens. And the one was here this morning. Either that or they're hunkered down someplace.
They may be hunkered down. The
sitting on
Jersey
eggs.
Giants have been hanging out with the turkeys. So how many of them are up on the roof?
No, I didn't.
How many are in the woodshed because they've been hanging out in there too? Like it's like all of a sudden.
Okay, 7 because there's one in there. You're right. There's one in there.
Yeah, because they're crazy now. They're like, well, we don't. Everybody's getting snobbish and they don't want to hang out with the regular chickens. They're all too special, and so they're trying to take over the wood crib. You got to get that wood crib full so they know it's not their home. But anyway, so yeah, that's probably what's going on.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. So
those 2 natural born chickens, they were beautiful little chickens.
Yeah,
they were gorgeous.
Yeah, Californians.
But they had some of that red Milo feather color to them. They're iridescent reddish brown.
Yeah.
I think she's gone because the male was out in the middle of the pasture. They just kind of wandered around.
Looking for her.
No, not really. He's just kind of aimless.
Anyway. Oh, did you see that? Did you see that perfume? I didn't buy that. Somebody was giving it away.
What is it?
It says Goat Man on it.
Greatest of all time, man. Is it female? Is it for males?
It's female and male. It's weird.
So it's gay.
I don't know.
It's a bisexual.
I just like the way it smelled, and I was like, okay, I'll take it.
It's a bisexual perfume.
I haven't tried it yet, but I almost don't want to try it. I don't want to break it open because it says Goat Man on it. I think it's just fun.
Goat is greatest of all time. That's
Oh.
what it stands for. That's why there's periods after each letter.
Oh. Well, I mean, I knew that, but I don't want it to be. I just want it to be goat. It can't just be goat. I already come out getting wood. Stacked for the winter.
Dude, there's still too much stuff that sticks you and makes you break out and everything down.
It's gotta wait for the fall.
Yeah, I gotta wait till everything dies off before I go back there. Because man,
it's treacherous, and hopefully we'll have the skid steer ready to go. The 4-wheeler's ready to go, which is fine. But can we get those big? Well, I guess we could cut the logs and then cut the logs out there.
I made it so where we're dropping trees this year, I can take the truck down there,
okay.
and we can. I'm thinking I may just take the splitter down there and
split everything down there,
load the truck up because we only need 7 cord.
Right.
And we could do that. I know.
Well, remember this is an El Nino, so we may need maybe an extra 2
Well, we've
cords.
only got storage space for 7. Actually,
I thought you could fit more in that crib.
I'm sorry. There's 7 there. There's 1 up by the house, and then there's 1 out by. So that we can do 9.
So perfect. I think 9 would be about right. So, just in case, or
Starla, I honestly don't know.
What'd she say?
When to make cheese. I got other people. They want me to give a cheese making class for one of the Midwest weekends, but
Not until next year, right?
Well, it was supposed to be this January, but I told them no. So I don't know. There's certain things tied to that the experience last time I did it was not the best.
Yeah, but it's 2 totally different things. 2 totally different groups. And so, you have always had a very large class and people coming to watch when you talked at festivals. So there's that.
Okay, good night, Dana.
Going through to Salina. So actually, Salina is actually west of us.
Well, she's going up to Concordia, which is 2.5 hours away.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's north of Salina. Or Salina, as they say on the New York Evening News, Salina, Kansas.
All right. So
Olathe was the other one for Olathe.
I had somebody call and I didn't even forward it because I was just like, you could totally tell this person had no idea and was not from. They wanted us to sponsor something, and then, but they called Topeka Topica, and I was like, yeah, no, you're not local if you can't pronounce Topeka.
Yeah.
So not happening. Uh,
So you got anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. And it's almost 9 o'clock here. I've got a few things that I need to get taken care of. Um, I'll see if my cousin is still up for a minute. I got to give him a call and catch him up on some details. And then plus, his son, first day of college today, was running late for a class and broke his ankle. And so Tim says to me, he messages me, and he's like, oh, my kids just flushed my money down the toilet. And so I sent him a message back, and I'm like, wait a minute. All he has is a broken ankle. Get on your crutches and go sit in a classroom. Like, this is not a major deal. And so then he messaged me back, but I didn't read it. So I'm just going to call him and give him crap. But he just gives those kids too much out, and he's got to stop that. So,
You're in family business.
I mean, not really. So, anyway, guys, be at least 10% better tomorrow than you were today. Thank you all for coming in. We appreciate you. Dana, he'll remember to get on there and get you what you need. And then hopefully everybody else pops in and wants a copy too. So we'll see. I haven't seen any more emails come from. So, but we'll see. It's pretty exciting. So, all right, guys. See you later.
Did you look at that?
I did not. I gave it to you the way I picked it up
Okay.
from the store.
I gotta put the QR code on it. Something I learned. ChatGTP is a great resource if you want QR codes made and you don't want to have to pay somebody to make it. ChatGPT will make it, but you run into problems when you take that QR code and stick it in another image and have the AI render that image. When it does that, it destroys the QR code and it will not work. So I'm gonna have to like print off the good QR code, scale it, print it off, and put it on that poster before I put it in the frame. So it's decent quality. It looks good.
Yeah, that's good.
But
Now let's get it into something before it gets destroyed, right? I knew I didn't have time to go buy Hobby Lobby.
yeah,
And I think I still have your message that has the size. Is this the size that you ordered?
24 by 36.
Okay, and that's what you have it on the message you sent me, right?
Yeah,
I can get it tomorrow.
I can send you the SKU for the frame.
Do that, and then I'll just pick it up
All right.
tomorrow. Because we need to get that where it doesn't get.
Yes, absolutely. And then we'll put it on the little metal tripod thing. It'll
Yeah.
look perfectly fine. All right, guys.
A really nice one that I have.
So now that we're done with that, we've reached the point in the video or the live stream where I get to pontificate. You like that? She's admiring the shirt.
Yeah, it's cute. It's funny. I have to figure out a day that I can wear this to work.
So I'm tying all these talks after we're done with the update portion of the live stream into the natural rights thing. And I was going to do this one last week, like I said, but got sidetracked with the mad rush to freedom thought.
How many glasses over there?
Right there. And so you're getting what I did last week, and I worked on it a little bit between then and now, so it's a little bit more refined. And again, I'm reading off of talking points, prompts, so that I can sound coherent and not like a complete buffoon. So with that said, we're gonna talk about when does force become just, and the moral problem for the upright citizen in that question. And first, let's talk about why we need this conversation. the discussion for on natural rights and moral law and upright citizen has taken us into some pretty difficult territory. We've talked about where the rights come from. We've talked about moral law. We've talked about virtue, responsibility. I introduced the idea of ordered liberty, self government, and what kind of people are actually capable of maintaining a free society. And throughout all those discussions, we keep coming back to one basic idea: the upright citizen has to be willing to think, not just react, not just repeat what somebody else has said, and not simply pick a side and then work backwards until they find an argument that supports it. And that's what a lot of people do. The upright citizen has to reason through difficult questions, exercise moral discernment, and accept responsibility for the consequences of their choices. And eventually that leads us to one of the hardest questions we're ever going to have to talk about. When is it morally acceptable to use force against another human being? Because most of us don't like to seriously think about that. And frankly, I think it's probably a good thing. If the thought of hurting or killing another human being is something you take lightly, then we probably need to have a different discussion, because there's a problem there. But not wanting to think about something doesn't mean we're never going to be confronted by it. If you believe you have a responsibility to protect yourself, your family, or your neighbor, or just some random innocent person who cannot protect themselves, then eventually you have to wrestle with the difficult question: what am I prepared to do if protecting them requires force? And if your answer is there are circumstances where I would use force, then another question immediately follows. And that is what are the moral limits on that force? And I've thought about this personally. Because of my background, training, and experiences, I spent a fair amount of time thinking about circumstances where I believe taking another person's life would be morally justified. And I've talked openly about those situations. I've trained around that possibility. And I've tried as best I can without ever actually having to do it to come to grips beforehand with the moral consequences of making that decision. Frankly, I hope I never have to find out whether I've gotten it all completely right or not. But I don't want the first time I seriously consider those questions to be when I'm scared, angry, running on adrenaline, I care about may be in danger, or I have seconds to make a decision I'm going to live with for the rest of my life. And I don't think the upright citizen should either. That's why this discussion needs to happen. This isn't about looking for permission to hurt somebody. It isn't about glorifying violence. And it certainly isn't about creating a checklist that magically makes every difficult decision easy. It's about doing some of the moral work before we're ever faced with a situation, because there's an enormous difference between saying, I am prepared to use force if circumstances really require it, and saying, I've been waiting for circumstances to give me permission to use force. Those can look pretty similar on the outside, but morally, they are worlds apart. So we're going to work through the discussion in three parts. The first part, we're going to deal with the quandary in the question. Can a Christian or anybody trying to live as an upright citizen morally use force? Because there's a real tension there. We believe human life has value. We believe in mercy, justice, restraint, forgiveness, loving our neighbor. But what happens when loving one neighbor requires me to stand between them and somebody who intends to hurt them? What happens when refusing to use force allows an innocent person to suffer? The second thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at the framework. If force can be justified, then that doesn't mean everything suddenly becomes permissible. So how do we determine when force is justified? Who has the authority to use it? How much force is appropriate? When does defense become vengeance? And perhaps most importantly, how do we know when it's time to stop? That's why we're going to look at just war theory. Not because every act of self-defense is war, obviously, but because people have been wrestling with these moral questions for a very long time. And just war theory gives us a framework for thinking through them instead of simply reacting to them. We're also going to talk about something that I call the grievance train. Because they did it first can take a long way to take us a long way down a road we probably shouldn't be traveling. And finally, we're going to bring everything back to the upright citizen because it's pretty easy to talk about these principles sitting here at the kitchen table. It's something entirely different when you're afraid or angry or when someone you love is in danger and you have seconds to make a decision that you will live with the rest of your life. How do we prepare ourselves mentally, morally, and spiritually for that possibility? How do you become capable of using force without becoming someone who wants to use force? And if that terrible moment does ever come, how do you maintain your principles before, during, and after it? Because underneath this entire discussion is one question. How do we become people capable of confronting evil without allowing the methods we use to defeat it to corrupt our principles we're trying to defend? Okay, so there's going to be three movements here. Movement one, the quandary. When I put this together, I actually wrote it like a book. So we've got the first act, the second act, and the third act. And hopefully I nailed it with the exposition and the rising tension and the closure. Right? You guys tell me at the end. Put it down in the comments after we're done. So the quandary. So let's start with the basic problem. There are two very easy positions we could take on force. The first is violence is wrong, therefore I will never use it. Violence is never the answer. How many times have we heard that? It's that simple. The second is if my cause is righteous, whatever force is necessary to achieve it is justified. That's also extremely simple, and it's also very easily to fall into it. The problem is that neither of these positions adequately deals with the world we actually live in. So suppose somebody attacks an innocent person and you have the ability to intervene. If you use force, you may be required to injure another human being. Man, words are hard. If you don't use force, the innocent person may be injured or even killed. Doing nothing is still a choice, and it has consequences. That's where this becomes very difficult for the Christian or the upright citizen. Christ tells us to live or to love our neighbor. He tells us to also love our enemies. Okay, now put both of them in the same room. When one of them is trying to murder the other, which one is my neighbor? Both of them are. But that doesn't necessarily mean I have identical obligations towards both of them in the moment. I may owe one innocent person protection, while at the same time owing the aggressor recognition of his humanity. Those obligations are not necessarily contradictory. It may mean, though, that I use whatever force is reasonably necessary to stop the aggressor, while refusing to use more force than is necessary. Excuse me. That's a very important distinction, because the objective isn't how do I hurt the bad guy? The objective is how do I stop the wrong? And those are not the same thing. And the distinction is going to follow through the entire decision. Now, being prepared doesn't mean that you're eager. This is also where we need to talk about our own attitude towards force. There are at least three positions someone can occupy. The first is, I could never take another person's life. Maybe that's a carefully considered moral conviction. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the person simply never seriously being confronted by the possibility. The second position is, I am prepared to take another person's life if circumstances morally require it. That person has confronted the possibility. He's considered circumstances where lethal force may be necessary. He's accepted that responsibility. Maybe he's even trained for it, but he hopes the circumstances never occur. Then there's the third position. I want circumstances to give me permission to take another person's life. That's something entirely different. The second and third person may own the exact same guns, they may have the exact same training, And they may even say some of the same things. The difference is internal. One is preparing himself to do something terrible if necessity requires it. The other is waiting for necessity to give him permission to do something he already wants to do. And I'm deliberately using the word terrible in this sentence or this context because terrible does not necessarily mean immoral. If somebody is attempting to murder your child and the only way to stop them results in their death, that action may be morally justified. It may be necessary. It may even be courageous. But the fact that circumstances made it necessary doesn't suddenly make the death of another human being something that is good. It remains terrible that the circumstances required it. Reluctance matters. Reluctant use of force is not the same thing as unwillingness to use force. The upright citizen should not be bloodthirsty, but neither should he become morally paralyzed when protection of the innocent requires action. And that brings us to the burden of moral justification. This is something that I've repeatedly said throughout the upright citizen discussions. The greater the consequences of the action contemplated, the greater the burden of moral justification. Think about that for just 1 second. If I'm deciding whether to insult somebody, there are consequences. If I'm deciding whether to deprive somebody of property, the consequences get greater. If I'm deciding whether to deprive somebody of liberty, they go up even further. And if I'm contemplating an action that may take another person's life, we've reached one of the highest levels of consequences imaginable. Therefore, the burden of moral justification should also be enormous. And here's something we need to add to this today. That burden does not disappear once the action begins. I can have a legitimate reason to use force and still use that force immorally. That's very important. And oddly enough, those of us in the Second Amendment community already understand a version of this. Think about the 4 firearm safety rules. Treat every firearm as though it's loaded. Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you decide to fire. Know your target and what is beyond it. Notice the rules don't say, if you're a good guy, don't worry about these. They don't say, if you're morally justified in owning a gun, you're morally doing anything you want with it. Quite the opposite. The possession of capability creates responsibility for how that capability is used. Being right doesn't relieve you of that responsibility. Having the right target doesn't relieve you of that responsibility. Having been attacked first doesn't relieve you of that responsibility. The gun does not suspend your moral agency. Neither does a uniform, neither does the flag, neither does the government, neither does a grievance, and neither does the righteousness of your cause. And that takes us directly into just war theory. This is where we talk about the framework. This is movement 2, act 2, if you will. Just war theory isn't a single theory written down by one guy at one point in history. It's a moral tradition that developed over centuries as Christians, philosophers, jurists, soldiers, rulers, and later international law wrestled with the reality of war. One of the major early Christian thinkers was was Augustine. Augustine was dealing with the problem Christianity could no longer avoid. Christianity had grown from a persecuted minority living under Rome into a faith practiced throughout the Roman world. Christians were soldiers. Christians were government officials. Christians had the responsibility for other people. So the question became unavoidable. Can a Christian use force to protect peace and justice without violating Christian morality? Augustine's answer, broadly speaking, was yes. But motive, authority, and purpose mattered enormously. War wasn't something to celebrate because it existed in a fallen world. Peace always remained the objective. A couple of centuries later, Thomas Aquinas organized some of those ideas much more systematically. Aquinas identified 3 basic requirements for just war. And remember, when I say just war, We're talking about personal decisions too, not just those of the state. Over the centuries, the traditions developed further. Today, you usually hear the framework divided into three categories: jus ad bellum, justice is in going to war; jus in bello, justice in the conduct of war; and increasingly, jus post bellum, justice after the war. Now, again, we're not going to pretend your confrontation with somebody in the parking lot is a war between nation states. The legal authorities are different, the circumstances are different, but the moral questions underneath the framework scale remarkably well. Let's talk about jus ad bellum. Should force be used? Before force begins, just war reasoning asks several questions. Is there a just cause? Is there legitimate authority? Is the intention right? Is force necessary? Traditionally, that's described as last resort. Is the response proportionate to the wrong? Is there some reasonable prospect that the action will actually accomplish the just objective? Let's take those apart. Let's discuss those for just a minute. Just cause. First, what exactly am I trying to stop or correct? Not why am I angry, not what happened to my grandfather, and not what did those people do 200 years ago. What is the injustice that exists now? That leads us to what I call the grievance train. And this thing is dangerous because you can ride it almost forever. They attacked us. Yeah, because you attacked us first. We attacked you because you stole our land. We took your land because you took it from somebody else. Well, 300 years before that, your people invaded. And pretty soon we're arguing about something that happened 8 centuries ago. The Crusades are a good example of how complicated that could become. Sometimes you'll hear the Crusades reduced to Christians invaded Muslim lands. Okay, but how many of those lands had previously been Christian or Byzantine territories before Muslim conquest? Then you have centuries of changing rulers, populations, persecutions, alliances, Seljuk expansion, the Byzantine defeat at Mazikert, the Byzantine emperor requesting Western assistance, access to holy sites, treatment of Christians, and competing political interests. So where exactly do we start the moral clock? Is it in 1095? Maybe 1071? Those are the Reconquista and the fall of Byzantium, Constantinople. Or 638, that's whenever Islam started. Do we keep going backward until somebody finally says, aha, there's the guy that started it? History rarely works that way. And it isn't unique between Christianity and Islam. You can do this with almost any long-running ethnic, religious, territorial, or national conflict. Eventually, every citizen on earth can produce a grievance. And at some point, the upright citizen has to say, the clock starts here. That doesn't mean history doesn't matter, because history matters enormously. If history tells us how we got here, it can help us establish patterns. It can tell us something about motives. It can reveal broken agreements. It can help us evaluate threats. But history cannot become an unlimited moral line of credit for present violence. Here's the distinction I want to make. A grievance tells me why I'm angry. A just cause tells me why I'm morally permitted to act. Sorry, I've got a cat attacking me. Those two things are not the same. Something terrible may genuinely have happened to me that establishes an injustice occurred. It doesn't automatically establish who I may act against, what I may do to them, how much force I may use, or how long I'm allowed to continue using it. So when we say the clock starts here, we're not saying forget history. We're saying history is evidence. It is not a blank check. The upright citizen asks, what is happening now? Who is doing what to whom now? What injustice exists now? What threat exists now? And what am I morally permitted to do about it now? The next one is right intention. Then we have to ask an even harder question. Why do I want to act? We've established the grievance. Now we have to establish why it bothers us, why we need to act against it. This one requires some serious honesty. Am I protecting somebody or am I punishing somebody? Am I trying to stop evil or hurt an evil person? Am I acting from duty or anger? Would I still believe this action necessary if I weren't personally offended? And here's probably the hardest version of these questions. Do I want this person stopped or do I want this person to suffer? That's right intention. Aquinas makes the point that you can have legitimate authority and just cause and still act wrongly because your intention is corrupt. That's incredibly important here because human beings are masters at taking a legitimate grievance and using it to justify something we emotionally wanted to do anyway. Hey, we're all guilty of that, guys. That's how defense becomes revenge. That's how justice becomes cruelty. And that's how people convince themselves that anything done by our side must be justified because our cause is righteous. Now we get to legitimate authority. This is one of the places where we have to be careful when translating just war theory from nations to individuals. The moral principles may scale. Authority does not necessarily scale with them. I may have moral and legal authority to defend myself against an imminent attack. I may have the authority to defend another person that's innocent. That doesn't mean I have the authority to assemble an army, invade another state, punish criminals, imprison political opponents, or declare war because I personally concluded the cause was just. Aquinas was very explicit that declaring war belonged to legitimate political authority rather than private individuals. That distinction matters. The upright citizen is not a vigilante. Believing something is wrong doesn't automatically grant me authority to impose whatever remedy I think is appropriate. That's the ordered liberty part. Authority has boundaries. And that brings us to last resort and necessity. This sometimes gets misunderstood as we have to try literally every conceivable option before we can act. Frankly, that's not very useful. If somebody is charging at your family with a weapon, you don't have a moral obligation to stop and create a spreadsheet of every possible alternative before responding. The deeper question is necessity. Is force actually necessary to achieve the just objective? If the wrong can be reasonably stopped through a less destructive means, that matters. But if delay means an innocent person dies, that matters too. Remember, refusing to act has consequences. Moral restraint cannot become an exercise for moral cowardice. An excuse for moral cowardice. Okay, as an aside, this one right here, is force actually necessary to achieve the just objective? This is where we get into shoot him in the leg. If somebody is attacking you, and I'm using this as an example here, guys. If somebody is attacking you, you don't shoot them to maim. You don't shoot them in the leg. You shoot them to stop them. And the best way to stop them is center mass and maybe one to the head. It's what I was trained on. It's probably what I'm going to fall back onto. This is necessity. The necessity of the moment matters, and that's a prime example. And then proportionality. Does the response fit the threat? This is one of the most intuitive principles. Someone insulting me doesn't justify lethal force. Someone stealing $20 doesn't automatically justify killing them. Someone presenting an imminent lethal threat creates radically different moral circumstances, and proportionality continues throughout the event. The amount of force justified 5 seconds ago may not be the amount justified 5 seconds from now. Which brings us to the second half of the just war theory. Jus in bello. How may force be used? It's justice in war. Let's say we've crossed the threshold. Force is justified. Now here's where people can make catastrophic moral mistakes. They think, okay, he's an aggressor, I'm justified, now the rules don't matter. No, the rules matter more now. This is where our firearm safety analogy comes back. Having a legitimate reason to fire does not mean you stop caring where the bullet goes. You still identify the threat. You still know what is behind the threat. You remain responsible for what you do. At the level of war, this becomes principles such as discrimination and proportionality. Combatants and civilians are not morally interchangeable. Military necessity doesn't mean anything goes. And a person who is no longer participating in the fight is not the same moral target he was actively attacking you. Which brings us to one of the most important ideas of the entire discussion: the stop the force clock. Imagine somebody's trying to kill you. He has a weapon. He's actively attacking you. Under these circumstances, I may have an extremely strong moral justification for using force. Then he drops the weapon. He raises his hands and he genuinely surrenders. Something has changed. My grievance hasn't changed. 5 seconds ago, this person was trying to kill me. My anger most likely hasn't changed. My adrenaline certainly hasn't disappeared. But the condition that justifies my force has changed. That means that the force clock stops. If the threat that justified the force ends, the justification for continuing that force may end with it. This principle is reflected in modern law of armed conflict as well. A combatant who generally surrenders and abstains from further hostile actions is considered hors de combat, out of the fight, and may not simply be attacked because of what he was doing moments earlier. But here's where I want to put a giant asterisk on the phrase "the force clock stops," because that does not mean that the threat analysis stops. These are two totally separate things. And I want to emphasize that stopping the force does not require me to suddenly decide, well, I guess he's a good guy now. Accepting surrender is not the same as granting trust. Restraint does not require nativity. Someone can stop presenting an immediate lethal threat while still presenting a potential threat in the future. That's why surrendering soldiers must be disarmed. That's why prisoners are guarded. That's why detention exists. That's why somebody dropping a weapon doesn't mean you hand it back to him and turn around. So we really have two questions running simultaneously. The force question: what am I morally justified in doing to this person right now? And the threat question: what precautions am I reasonably justified in taking based upon what I know? The answer to this first question may be, I am no longer justified in using lethal force. The answer to the second may simultaneously be, I have a very good reason not to trust this person. Those are perfectly compatible conclusions. And here's where history becomes relevant again. If someone has attacked me repeatedly, if an organization has repeatedly violated agreements, if an enemy has historically used deception or false surrender, if somebody's demonstrated behavior tells me he remains dangerous, that history can absolutely inform my threat assessment. I'm going to put it simply. Past performance dictates future expectations. It doesn't automatically grant permission for vengeance. So here's another way of stating our grievance principle. Don't use history to manufacture permission. Use history to inform judgment. Or even shorter, history is evidence, not authorization. This allows the upright citizen to exercise restraint without becoming stupid. Mercy doesn't require gullibility. Forgiveness does not require trust. Accepting surrender does not require disarmament of yourself. And refusing to kill somebody who no longer presents a necessary threat does not require pretending that person can never become dangerous again. This is where prudence joins justice. Justice asks, what am I morally permitted to do? Prudence asks, given what I actually know about the world, what is the wise thing to do? The upright citizen needs to answer both those questions. Okay, so when does defense become vengeance? Because this is when we come back to the personal example here. Somebody attacks me, I defend myself. He runs away. My grievance still remains. I'm still injured. He is still responsible for attacking me. But if the immediate threat has ended, something fundamental has changed. If I chase him down 3 blocks later because he started it, we may have changed moral categories. What began as defense may have just become vengeance. And that doesn't mean justice disappears. Police may become involved, courts may become involved, there may be punishment, there may be restitution, there's going to be consequences. But those aren't necessarily mine to personally administer. And this gives us 3 questions that I think are worth remembering. Number 1, what happened? Let's establish the grievance honestly. Number 2, what needs to be stopped or corrected now? We're establishing just cause. What am I morally permitted to do about it? This establishes the limits. And then I ask the uncomfortable 4th question. Am I trying to stop injustice, or am I using injustice to justify something I already wanted to do? Yeah, I'm going to put that up on the screen for a moment because that is exactly the thought that was running through my head when I was developing this whole thing, Len. But the am I trying to justify something I already wanted to do? That's the question that nations should ask, governments should ask, police should ask, gun owners should ask, and the upright citizen should ask. Okay, now that brings us to the 3rd part. Just postbellum. What happens afterward? There's one more part of just war tradition worth mentioning, and that's, as I said, what happens when the conflict ends? Because being right at the beginning doesn't grant permanent moral authority over somebody at the end. Victory is not a blank check either. If the objective was to stop aggression, what happens once the aggression has stopped? If the objective was to restore peace, what kind of peace are we creating? Are we pursuing justice or humiliation? Are we restoring order or settling scores? Are we creating conditions where the conflict can actually end? Or are we planting grievances that will fuel the next one? History's littered with that one. This applies at the national level, obviously, but it also points us back towards the individual. Because after force has been used, somebody has to live with what happened. And that's where we move into the final movement, the upright citizen. Everything we've talked about so far sounds pretty clean when it's written down. Just cause, right intention, authority, necessity, proportionality, discrimination. Stop when the threat stops. It's all very tidy, isn't it? But you know as well as I do that real life isn't tidy. Real people have to make these decisions, and real people make them while experiencing fear, anger, confusion, pain, and sometimes grief. So how does the upright citizen prepare himself mentally, morally, and spiritually to use force if it ever becomes necessary? I think we need to think about this in 3 phases, just like the just war theory: before, during, and after. Before using force, we do the mental work now. The first principle is simple. Decide what you believe before somebody tests it. That's really what training is. We practice things before we need to use them because we know human beings don't suddenly become smarter, calmer, more disciplined during a crisis. Preparedness works the same way. We don't want the first time you think about emergency water to be when the faucet stops working. You don't want the first time you think about fire safety to be when the kitchen is burning. And you don't want the first time you seriously consider the moral implications of lethal force to be while somebody is trying to kill you. So ask these questions now. What circumstances do I believe justify force? What circumstances justify lethal force? What am I protecting? Would I intervene to protect a stranger? Where does defense end? Where does vengeance begin? What are the lines I will not cross? What would tell me to stop? Could I live with somebody taking somebody's life? And here's another one that is every bit as important. Could I live with refusing to act if my refusal resulted in an innocent person's death? That matters too, because sometimes we treat inaction as though it carries no moral burden. It can. It does. I'm going to change that to it does. The upright citizen isn't simply preparing himself to use force. He's preparing himself to make a moral decision under terrible circumstances. Okay, during force, remember the objective. If force becomes necessary, the objective matters. The objective of righteous force is not to destroy the enemy, it's to terminate the conditions that justify the use of force. Sometimes the aggressor may die as a consequence, but his death isn't necessarily the objective. Stopping what he is doing is. That's a very important mental distinction because it tells us when to stop. If I mentally define success as I need to kill this guy, then surrender doesn't necessarily satisfy my objective. But if the objective is I need to stop him from killing that innocent person, then the moment he stops, my situation has changed. That's the force clock that we talked about. And this is where discipline becomes essential. Fear cannot be allowed to expand our moral permission. Anger cannot be allowed to expand it. Hatred cannot be allowed to expand it. The fact that I was originally right cannot expand it. Justification controls the force, not emotion. Okay, now after the force, this is when the moral reckoning comes into play. And this doesn't get talked about nearly enough, in my opinion. What happens afterwards? The shooting stops, the fight ends, the war ends, but the moral problem doesn't necessarily end with it. A person may have done everything right and still have to live with having taken another human life. And I think it's important to recognize something here. A person can simultaneously say, I believe what I did was morally justified, as well as if I would place in the exact same circumstances, I would make the same decision again. And I wish with everything in me that I had never been placed in circumstances requiring me to make that decision. Those statements don't contradict one another. There's a difference between guilt and grief. A person can grieve a necessary action without concluding that the action was sinful. The opposite is also true. The fact that I don't feel guilty doesn't automatically prove that what I did was right. So there has to be an honest reckoning afterwards. Was my cause actually just? Did I use only the force necessary? Did I stop when justification stopped? Did anger influence what I did? Did vengeance creep in? Did I unnecessarily harm somebody? What responsibility do I have now? And for the Christian, I think there's another question. Can I bring what I did before God without lying to him or myself about what I did? And that's probably the most serious question a Christian can ask. Because he deserved it is very different from it was necessary to stop what he was doing. The first is grievance language. The second is much closer to just war reasoning. The upright citizen isn't looking for somebody who deserves violence. He's determining whether the circumstances require force. Now, there's one more step we need to take because we're coming to the end of this. Because we spend a lot of time talking about the upright citizen as an individual, but none of us lives entirely as an individual. We live in circles. At the center is you, your conscience, your choices, your responsibility for your actions. Then comes the circle immediately around you, your family, the people directly entrusted to your care. Then your circle expands to your neighbors, your church, your friends, the people you work with, and your local community. People who may not even personally know who you are, but share the society in which you live. Then the circle expands again, the larger political community, your state, and eventually the nation itself. At every level, the scale changes. Authority changes, responsibility changes, consequences changes. But the moral question doesn't suddenly disappear. Is there a just cause? Who possesses legitimate authority? What is our intention? Is force necessary? Is the response proportional? Who are we acting against? Who must we protect? When does the force clock stop? And remember, stopping the force clock does not mean stopping the threat analysis. I want to say that again because it's so important. Those questions matter when I'm protecting my family. They matter when neighbors protect the community. They matter when police exercise force on behalf of the public. They matter when governments exercise coercive power, and they matter enormously when a nation sends young men and women off In fact, as those circles expand, something we've been saying throughout the entire Upright Citizen series becomes more important. Here it comes again, guys. The greater the consequences of the action contemplated, the greater the burden of moral justification. If I make a terrible decision personally, the consequences may be devastating. Just like if a community makes one, more people suffer. If a government makes one, thousands or millions of people may live with the consequences. So the principle that we've been discussing don't become less important as the circles get bigger. The burden of applying them becomes greater. But there's an important caution here. The fact that the moral principles scale outward does not mean my personal authority scales outward with them. My authority to defend my family doesn't give me authority to declare war. My belief that somebody committed injustice does not make me judge, jury, or executioner. Authority remains part of the moral calculation. That's what ordered liberty requires. And this is where I think the discussion becomes particularly important for citizenship, because we have a tendency to outsource moral responsibility once the government becomes involved. I didn't do it, the government did, or the military did it, or the police did it, or the president did, or Congress voted. Okay, we're citizens. We vote, we serve, we lead, we influence our neighbors, we support policies, we elect people, we send young women and men off to fight. We decide which actions we're willing to endorse in our name. That doesn't mean I'm personally responsible for every decision my government makes. Obviously not. The upright citizen should still ask, was the cause just? What is the objective? Is this necessary? Is it proportionate? What are the consequences? What happens if we win? And what tells us when to stop? And perhaps one of the most important questions, would I accept this principle if my enemy used exactly the same justification? We've asked a version of that question throughout the upright citizen discussion. Would I support this power if my political opponent controlled it? In fact, I did a thing on that. Is it a preference or is it a principle? The same reasoning applies here. If I condemn an action when my enemy does it, but excuse the identical action when my side does it, I need to ask whether I'm actually applying a moral principle or merely defending my tribe. And for the Christian, all this comes back to something deeper. The person threatening me bears the image of God. So does the person he's threatening. The enemy soldier bears the image of God. So does the civilian he's attacking. The criminal bears the image of God, and so does his victim. Recognizing the humanity of the aggressor does not require abandoning the innocent. And protecting the innocent does not grant permission to deny humanity to the aggressor. That's the tension. Christian charity governs how I regard a person. Justice governs what I may do to that person. Prudence governs what I should reasonably expect from that person. And all three of those operate at the same time. I can hope my enemy repents, refuse to unnecessarily harm him. I can recognize his authority and still keep the door locked. I can accept somebody's surrender and still disarm him. I can forgive somebody and still recognize that trusting him would be foolish. I can love my enemy and still stand between him and the innocent he intends to harm. That's not necessarily hypocrisy, it's moral discernment. Now, guys, another aside here. That this last section that I just went through. All these things turn into arguments that the left uses against the upright citizen, the conservative, and the patriot. We're hypocrites because we're willing to kill somebody. No, we're willing to use moral discernment here, and that's what that section is. The Christian question there. That's exactly what that's about. Moral discernment. Now, that brings us to one final thing. Well, it's not the final thing. There's actually something after this, but it's a very important thing, and it's something that I've wrestled with personally. So let's come back to the question that we started with here. Can the Christian and the upright citizen morally use force? I believe the answer is yes, obviously. But that's not the end of the discussion. This is where another discussion begins, because the next question is, under what circumstances, for what purpose, under whose authority, using how much force, against whom, For how long and what happens afterward? That's the just war theory, and that matters. It doesn't give us permission to wage war. It gives a framework for determining whether force can be morally justified and limits that remain even when it is. And I think there's a lesson here that goes far beyond war. The righteous cause does not sanctify every action taken in its name. That's true in warfare. That's true of politics. That's true of law enforcement, self-defense, social movements, revolutions, governments, and it's true for us as individuals. We don't get to stop exercising moral judgment just because we've decided we're the good guys. In fact, that may be precisely when moral judgment becomes more important, because we run the risk of becoming the monster that we're fighting against if we allow our moral judgment to lapse. So if I could reduce everything we discussed into a handful of ideas, here's where I'd start. Does the moral work before the crisis? Know exactly what you believe before fear, anger, and adrenaline start making the arguments for you. Second, don't confuse preparation with eagerness. The upright citizen may be capable of force without desiring it. Third, don't board the grievance train. Understand history, study it, learn from it. Use it to understand threats and motives, but don't use history as an unlimited source of permission for present violence. History is evidence, not authorization. Know why the clock starts. What present condition actually justifies force? Not what happened 400 years ago, not what somebody said on social media, not what group of somebody belongs to not what group somebody belongs to. What is happening right now that morally justifies the action? Fifth thing, know when the force clock stops. When the condition justifies force ends. When the condition justifying force ends, your moral permission changes. Well, that was a hard sentence to get out, wasn't it? And I want to emphasize this one more time. Stopping the force clock does not mean stopping the threat analysis. Restraint doesn't require naivety, as I said before. Mercy doesn't require stupidity. You can stop using force while remaining alert to the possibility that the threat may return. And finally, accept responsibility before, during, and after. The burden of moral justification doesn't disappear when the trigger's pulled. It doesn't disappear when the battle's won. It doesn't disappear when your side is right. It doesn't disappear because the other person started it, and it doesn't disappear because somebody in authority told you what to do. The upright citizen remains a moral agent, and that's the entire point. We've said throughout these discussions that ordered liberty depends on people capable of governing themselves. And I think this may be the ultimate test of the idea. Can I possess power without being ruled by it? Can I possess the capability for violence without becoming violent in spirit? Can I confront evil without allowing hatred to become my motivation? Can I protect the innocent with still recognizing the humanity of the aggressor? Can I use force when morality requires it? Restrain force when morality limits it, and stop force when morality demands it. I'm going to say that again. Can I use force when morality requires it? Restrain force when morality limits it, and stop when morality demands it. That's a much harder standard than simply saying, I'm one of the good guys. But that's exactly why we need to think about these things before we're confronted with them, because the upright citizen doesn't wait for a crisis to decide what his principles are. He develops those principles beforehand, he tests them, he questions them, and he understands why he believes them. And then when circumstances become difficult, he holds himself accountable for them, even when he's angry, afraid, and when the other side doesn't. And especially when abandoning them would make things easier. Because ultimately, the greater the consequences of the action contemplated, the greater the burden of moral justification. And perhaps I should add one more. The greater the power we possess, the greater our responsibility to remain governed by principle when we use it. That's the challenge of the just war theory, and I think it's one of the greatest challenges facing the upright citizen. Now, here's a postscript. This I that was supposed to be the end of the discussion. I was thinking on this, and I've got a postscript on the framework here. And it's a quick note on where these ideas come from. Okay, the framework I used here isn't something that I simply made up for this discussion. I was probably first introduced or exposed to these ideas in 1984-85 when I was in Army ROTC at the age of 18. One of the course materials we read was War, Morality, and the Military Profession by Mayhem M. Waken. And I've still got a copy of it somewhere on the bookshelf. This is where I was introduced to St. Thomas Aquinas' just war theory. Aquinas laid out the three foundational requirements for the just war: legitimate authority, just cause, and right intentions. Later just war thinking expanded those ideas to include necessity, proportionality, reasonable chances of success, discernment between legitimate and illegitimate targets, and restraint in the actual use of force. Some of these ideas were already familiar to me long before I started digging into the just war theory for this discussion. Through Army ROTC and later as a Marine, I became well versed in the law of land warfare. Those are the rules governing things like military necessity, distinction between combatants and non-combatants, proportionality, treatments of prisoners and wounded personnel, surrender, and limits on how force may be applied. What I didn't fully appreciate at the time was the much older moral and philosophical tradition behind many of these principles. Just war theory helps explain the reasoning underneath the rules that, in a military setting, I had learned largely as an obligation governing my and my fellow Marines' conduct. The idea I call stop the clock but don't stop analyzing the threat also has real-world parallel in the law of armed conflict. Someone who generally surrenders is no longer a lawful target simply because they were trying to kill you moments earlier. But accepting their surrender does not require you to trust them, release them, or pretend they no longer present potential threat. That's an important distinction throughout this session because past behavior, ideology, deception, demonstrated intent can legitimately inform our assessment of a continuing threat. They do not, by themselves, provide unlimited moral permission to use force, though. In other words, restraint doesn't require nativity, and prudence doesn't justify vengeance. Okay, for anybody interested in digging deeper, St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theology 2.2, question 40 is an excellent starting point. Now, I had AI help me create a recommended reading list for anyone interested in pursuing this topic and more in depth. And yes, there are 10 books on this list, and I have read completely 3 of these books on the list, along with sections on through 3 or 4 more of them, exploring the topic before this talk. So this is not something that I've come to lightly, and it's not something that just is off the top of my head. This is something that I have lived in reality. Thank God I've never had to live in the reality of pulling the trigger, but I've lived it, and I've trained on it, and I've given it thought before. You know, one of the things that always bothered me in the Marine Corps, I was not in a combat arms unit, and the people I served with were not combat Marines for the most part. And we would go to the rifle range, and I approached the rifle range. I was shooting at paper targets, but I was practicing to shoot a man. So every round I put down range on paper, in my mind, was meant for a human being, and because that's had it come to it, that's the way it would have been. And one thing that bothered me was a lot of my fellow Marines never really wrestled with that idea and thought about it before. And I always had the thought in my head, and maybe this could be what causes a lot of people to have the severe PTSD that they do now. All right, and it's not something that I want to deal with if I ever have to do it. I'm going to put that reading list in a community note down below, or not below. When we're done here, I'm going to post a community note, and so that you guys can go check it out if you want to. I put my suggestion on where to start reading, and quite frankly, it was, in retrospect, it was what the way I learned basically back in 1984 and 85. So I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I hope it gave you some food for thought, something to chew on. Okay, let's go back and do what? Oh, Angela says the storm's coming in, so we need to make it quick. Okay, let's see here. The Spider-Man. Harsh consequences are deterrents for the future. If you stop at stopping, there isn't much to prevent the next assault. Fear changes behavior. Absolutely. Force for what purpose? That's the question there. Kyle Payton, 795. I don't know. I don't recognize that name. Welcome to the conversation there, Kyle. I'm glad you came. Looks like you put a lot of good stuff in there. Yes, the biblical ramifications. Kyle goes through talking about Jacob and Abraham and Isaac. These are all things that, as a Christian, that I've learned through my walk, and it really has guided my thinking on this. Let's see here. Say what I want about it, but I'll call reducing all farm prices. Oh, it's talking about something different there. You're called as a light to resist the darkness, not to put it out, or not to shine bright. Absolutely. Just War Theory sounds very Old Testament as God. Well, and Kyle, when it was developed by Augustine, initially, it was extremely biblically based. And the one question that comes out of this is people say, well, in the Old Testament, God had the Jews, the Israelites, kill entire tribes. He commanded Saul to kill the Amalekites. To kill everything, even their cattle, and it's hard to reason through that as a new Christian. But the just war theory, you stop when the threat stops, and these tribes. This is just context here, okay? I'm not being theological or anything. It's just context. These tribes had been attacking the Israelites for generations, and they were an imminent threat. And the only way to stop that imminent threat was to destroy them totally. And there's a lot of, again, the moral justification has to be extremely great if you take that road. Again, welcome, Kyle. Sorry, the time lag for comment isn't mad. Oh, it's normal. It's normal here. Best to read the scriptures and pray God will give you the understanding. Absolutely. But the point, hey, here's the point, a point to be made there, Starla. We have to be intentional. This is something that I'm trying to express to people. Everything we do here, the preparedness is intentional. Everything that's happening to us is intentional in some form or another. So we have to be intentional in our preparations to deal with them, right? And that means materially, it means mentally, it means spiritually, it means everything. All right, so we have to be intentional. Okay, Starla's got a question here. Do you believe someone who dies? Okay. Do you believe someone who dies that they can see Jesus and talk with Jesus, and Jesus can send them back with a message? Do I believe in near-death experiences? Yes, I do. Do I believe that someone may talk to it? Someone may converse to a divine being in that moment? Yes, I do. Do I believe it's Jesus? I cannot say that definitively, because I know that Jesus uses others to speak for him. He uses the angels to bring us messages. He could use our loved ones to bring us messages. So, am I going to say equivocally that it's Jesus? No, I'm not going to say that. Okay, uh, it very well may be, but that's between whoever has that conversation with them and Jesus. Let's see here. Old Testament versus New Testament God, kind of hard to reconcile, but there's a whole time thing. People had changed a little by the time the New Testament happened. The Old Testament, people were barely human. Well, it's the same God. And here's an important thing: abrogation. What's said in the New Testament does not make what's said in the Old Testament, does not negate it. Christ himself, he didn't come to destroy the law. He came to fulfill it. The moral principles in the Old Testament still apply. The legalistic application were no longer with the new covenant. All right, that's my understanding of it. I've been thinking about getting that because I've heard about it, and it could be very interesting. Very interesting. Let's see here. If one's preparedness isn't intentional, they will definitely be affected by something unconventional. Absolutely. Yeah, look at the unwritten history of the New Testament Christian church, just as bad as. Yeah, look at the unwritten history of the New Testament Christian church, just as bad or worse. Okay, I'm not understanding that one. Christ came to fulfill the law. We are now living under grace, not under the law. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why the circumcisions and the feasts and all those they're not part of grace. They're not needed for grace. You can still follow them. In fact, Mr. Hacks and I have been talking about starting to celebrate the feasts as part of a just showing a bit of devotional, bit of devotion, right? Okay, guys, listen, we've gone over 2 hours. That one went a little long. I apologize. I know it was a very morally heady topic. Excuse me. But it's something that we definitely need to talk about. Okay, listen. Again, thank you for joining us. Remember, as you go out tomorrow, you want to live a life that's worthwhile. And when I say worthwhile, refer back to the natural rights, moral law, and the upright citizen conversation, and that will explain what a worthwhile life is. Okay. With that said, do that tomorrow. Take care, guys.
The Good Idea Fairy has arrived at Grumpy Acres Farm, and for 6 days only, everything in the store is 20% off. See a design you like? You choose what you want it on. T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, and more. Just pick the design, choose your product, color, and size, and make it yours. August 11th through the 16th. Scan the code and check it out.